So we bought our house 8 years ago, and there was a few things that came through on our house inspection report. Nothing major, but one of the things that the house inspector did mention was that the roof was going to have to be replaced anywhere from 5 to 10 years.
Brian and Melanie, moving into this being their first home, they had a lot of different demands on their budgets. They had renovations that they wanted to do, and they knew that they needed a roof.
And every spring, once the snow melted, we would look up at the roof and it would be a constant reminder that we knew it was coming. This spring, we were outside and Maria was out, and there was a fellow walking around the yard with her, and she was telling me that she was getting a new roof, or she was thinking about getting a new roof. And then she started telling me about the aluminum roof with Interlock. We thought that was really interesting. And then we kept asking Maria more questions. And finally she said, why don't you just talk to the guys that are over here? I'll send them over to your house in a few minutes. And that's how it all started.
It's a great situation because Maria, their neighbor, had chosen Interlock for her roof. And to hear them tell about it, it was good enough for Maria. So on the strength of Maria's recommendation, we got to go and see them. They had a few other questions, but on the strength of Maria's recommendation, Interlock was their preferred roofing choice.
We were losing shingles. It was causing problems with drainage. There was curling and cracking, and anytime we had seriously inclement weather, we would find pieces of our shingles on the ground.
Yeah, the number one thing that I was drawn to was the longevity of the roof, knowing that we would never have to replace it again. And I'm planning on living in this house for a very, very long time, so that was definitely a pro. The second part that I was drawn to and that was really appealing was the sustainability and the environmental factor. They were actually able to replace the Interlock roof over top of the existing shingles, which was an advantage to me because I believe it was something like 30% of landfills are actually filled up full of shingles. And we have made an effort over the past few years to be more environmentally friendly and just sustainable with our choices that we make.
Brian's from PEI, so waste disposal and what's going into the landfill is a major hot button issue for them. So when he was able to have his mind put at ease that putting our roof on top of the existing shingle would not have any negative effect on the longevity of the roof, and it would keep that stuff out of the landfill, and that we would never have to replace this roof again. He was pretty much sold on that, on the strength of the environmental forward thinking that we have.
Coming from a small island, it makes a huge difference when you don't have to waste something. Generally we have to think longer term. There's no throw it in the dump and forget about it for a generation or two. So with eco-friendly products becoming more and more common, we actually had a harder time, but the fact that Interlock is lifetime guaranteed and eco-friendly, and we didn't have to worry about our shingles just being thrown in the landfill, making it a longer-term solution, that made us very happy.
What immediately went through our mind, just like any major renovation, was, oh boy, are we actually going to do this? Is this for real? Are we ready for this? Does this need to happen? And then we actually did something really interesting, and we talked to my dad.
Melanie checked in with her dad, who, to use their words, is a very practical man.
And my dad is one of the cheapest, most thriftiest guys you will ever meet.
Frugal
Guys you will ever meet.
And he had said that he'd wished that he had done something like Interlock 40 years ago, because then he wouldn't have had to continually do that re-roofing.
And one of the things that he said that really rang true to us, and he's done his roof twice in the 40 plus years that he's lived in his house, he said something really interesting. He said, I wish this existed when I started doing my roofing, because I would have done it. And that kind of just had like a little bit of a tone. It really hit home with us, because we realized that this was our chance and our opportunity to do this, so that we don't have to do our roof repeatedly over the next decades.
Well, of course, the first question was, can we afford this? It is a little more expensive than doing your roof with traditional shingles. But after we thought about it and started thinking long term, we realized in the end it's a far more affordable solution than redoing your roof every 10 years.
More and more people are coming to realize that a roofing decision is just not all about price and the lowest price. So with Interlock, they're very pleased when they find out that, it's a prior end product, but it's not just a roof, it's a roof system. There's a lot of value, people find a lot of value in the fact that we make this roof, we deal with the installation, it's a premium product, it's got premium accessories, and it's a company that's been around for a long time that's going to stand behind it.
The installation was fairly easy and seamless, for us anyways, we did nothing at all. The packaging arrived on a Friday afternoon with a quick phone call. They had mentioned that they were going to be dropping it off in our designated spot, and that we got a phone call shortly after the delivery of the product, and they were confirming their start time for the next morning at 7:30. And I believe it was at about 7:31 that the work started the next morning. And before we knew it, half a day later, everything was complete. It went by very fast.
Well, when the material got dropped off, I was immediately doubtful that it would be a short turnaround, but I was amazed. They did the whole roof in one day.
Half a day.
Half a day.
The week we brought our baby home, we had a few inches of snow because it's Edmonton in September. Why wouldn't it snow? And we were sitting in the living room, and it was the day after it had snowed. We looked out, there was a nice coat of snow everywhere. It was actually quite pretty, if it weren't for the middle of September. And the sun had just come up. It was about noon. It was about noontime, and we were sitting in the living room, and we heard this incredibly loud roar. And we both looked at each other, and then we had to look outside to find out what it was. And then we saw the snow falling down off the roof. And the first time you hear the sound falling off the roof, it's actually quite startling.
I didn't find it that loud, to tell you the truth.
Okay, I jumped. One thing I have noticed is definitely the sound factor. I think it's a bit quieter upstairs, maybe because everything's a bit quieter upstairs because we're trying to keep a baby asleep.
No, it's true, because we had rain one day, and normally we'll wake up to rain and we'll know it's raining. But we woke up, we walked out to the kitchen, looked out the window, and were shocked to find out that it was raining because the roof was so quiet. We didn't know that it was coming down, and coming down quite hard.
Yes, I tell my friends and family nothing but great things about Interlock, mostly because of the learning experience that we had, learning everything that Interlock is and stands for, as well as the installation, and then as well as the follow-up even after.
I mean, the roof is solid, and we don't have to worry about little pieces breaking off. It's good forever.